I was advised against watching this movie, and I was advised against discussing it on this channel, contaminating the channel with this movie. But Maestro, if you're watching, I'm sorry. I had to do it. I am paying the price for it. This is the garbage bag. Didn't you say I had to wear a garbage bag? And we're talking about Vision Quest. Let's do it. A little backstory into how it became something that I wanted to talk about on this channel. So one day I called up Maestro just to say what's up, just to talk. We were talking about movies. I mentioned I'd seen some recent films, and then a Matthew Modine picture came up, and then he brought up Vision Quest. I hadn't seen it before, so I looked it up. And as we talked, I'd seen it on the little TV, and I was like, oh yeah, interesting. So me, I was curious enough to go, all right, let me just watch the first 5 minutes, see what's up. Naturally, I watched the whole thing, and I have some thoughts. Maestro, if you're watching, you can turn off at this point because I'm gonna start getting into what my thoughts are. I don't know how many people are gonna like this movie. I understand it's now a cult classic for a lot of reasons. It is not certain people's favorites. I don't think a lot of people like the movie, but some people do have a soft spot for it. So where do I fall on it? Maestro obviously did not like the movie. Maybe he did. I don't know. I got the impression. Maestro, maybe one day you and I will talk about this movie on this channel. We got to debrief together. We didn't get a chance to actually talk about it when I told you I'd seen it. But hey, that's what this is for. It's a cult classic from 1985, around the time where there are a lot of sports movies, sports dramas, and things are not new. They were happening before the 1980s, but in the 1980s you had a pretty solid run, some pretty decent ones, and coming out of a time period where you had films like the Rocky movies, which is probably one of the more well-known and well-loved sports movies. So Vision Quest, I feel like, is an offshoot of movies like that. It's related. It's in the same vein, which is one of the strengths of this movie. I think it's one of the things that would get people watching. And so you're looking at what are some of the things that this movie has going for it. And one of the things is that it is a sports movie. And I think this is one of the things that is endlessly fascinating about the genre sports movies. The idea that you have a team or a person, a group of people trying to achieve something, and they're training for something. They're training to reach a goal. They're trying to do something, and we want to see whether or not they do it. Are they going to win? Are they going to lose? What are they going to lose? Are they going to gain something? What are they going to learn about themselves in the process? Sports movies are inspiring. And there's a reason why they're made in the first place, because there's something about the story that sports movies tell that is a lot like stories in general, and how why we keep telling stories as humans. Why do we keep telling stories? Something about it pulls us in, and I think that's one thing about Vision Quest that I think you're going to get behind. You have a guy, Loudon, who's played by Matthew Modine, and who's trying to achieve something. He's trying to wrestle like a very skilled, very dangerous dude, but he's got to lose weight to do it. He's already good in his current weight class, but he wants to wrestle this one guy, but that guy is in a lower weight class. And so the journey is Loudon has to then lose weight and maintain it so he can go and wrestle this dude and win. The B plot, the subplot, there's obviously there's a romance here. I'll get to that. That is not one of the film's strongest points, I don't think, but that's me. Going back to one of the other things that I think is good about the movie is the acting overall. There's sound acting from people like Linda Fiorentino, who plays the love interest Carla, Ronnie Cox, who you might know from RoboCop, from Total Recall, from Beverly Hills Cop movies. This film was noteworthy for the reason that this is Madonna's first major motion picture appearance. She did have one before this, but I don't know how often it's talked about. I found it from I think 1978 or 79. The movie escapes me now, but Vision Quest was one of the bigger ones that sort of showed her for real on screen, which was a fact I didn't know. Maestro educated me on that. Didn't know that. And that was another aspect that intrigued me. So, well, I have to see this now. I got to see what's up. Where's Madonna? And the film does make a point to, even though it's a minor appearance, but the film tells you that Madonna is someone is a deal. She's important. Upon first glance, you might think this is like any other movie that has a musical appearance from some artist who you don't know, and or may not even be a real artist that is like a mainstream artist, but someone who's just singing on stage or whatever it is. Movies do this occasionally where you have characters at a bar, at a club, or at a nice place where there's people singing and stuff on stage. And occasionally they'll cut to the singers or people on stage or whatever. But the way this movie does it, the camera does linger on Madonna a little bit, just a little bit longer than it might in other movies, which, to me, it says that, oh, this is somebody you got to watch out for. And darn it, if you don't have to watch out for her, because it is Madonna, and so she does prove herself in this decade of the 1980s and into the 1990s when you start seeing more of her in movies. But the movie's noteworthy. Vision Quest is noteworthy for that, and also something else that I found surprising that I didn't see anyone talking about anywhere when I did it. looked more into this movie was there's a young Forrest Whitaker up in here. Like and it's very clearly Forrest Whitaker, and he's fairly prominent in the movie. So I'm just here to give Forrest Whitaker some love because he deserves it too. Outside of that, I'm not quite sure what else this movie has going for it that one might appreciate, except for the fact that look, Matthew Modine is actually quite charming in this movie. He's handsome, and by the way, he does still look like that. Like he looks like I may have mentioned this in another video, but I saw him last year at the film festival. He had a movie premiering that he was produced and he starred in. I think it was called Hard Miles, which was very good. I don't know. I'm sure you'll be able to find it somewhere. Hard Miles was pretty decent. But Modine looks like he's quite youthful still. He looks exactly the same. He looks like someone who, how older movies, when obviously the actors are younger and they put age makeup on them to make them look older, and you can tell they're still young. Modine to me looks like that, and he's easy to follow as a character. That said, there are some things about his character that are irritating. So I did a lot of eye rolling when it came to certain aspects of his character and how he was written. I'm sure some of this comes from the Terry Davis, the novel, but I feel like given that the novel feels like it might be a better experience of the story. Modine's Loudon is way obvious when it comes to Carla, who obviously is the love interest. There's like scenes of him like really like it's like being a weird kid who is obviously taken with her, and it suddenly becomes like oddly like sex crazed almost, like he's really wanting to like it's that part's kind of weird about it. But then it was the 1980s, and maybe the movie is a product of its time in that way. The other thing that's weird about it is that he so if you don't know, if you haven't seen this movie before, Carla is older than Loudon. She's about a few years older. She's 21, 22, something like that. She's in her early 20s, and she's coming across the country from the East Coast on her way to the West Coast to pursue her dreams of being an artist. Along the way, a car breaks down. She gets stuck in the town where Loudon and his father are. She ends up moving in with Loudon and his dad, which, okay, she had nowhere else to go, whatever. I could see that, but it's some part of it feels like, why would she just move with these two random dudes she just met? And the way Loudon obviously is like falling all over himself to get her to move in with them. That was like, that wasn't one eye roll inducing aspect of the movie. The other thing is, Carla, look, it happens. There are older women who are attracted to younger dudes, and we see this. This happens in real life, whatever. But in this movie, I'm not quite sure. Nothing about it, well, very little about it felt genuine. Like, oh, I could see that. It seemed like at first, really, they weren't really going to be getting along as well. But, and it's hard to gauge the chemistry because you don't see a lot of Carla throughout the movie. This is really Loudon's story. Carla pops up periodically, and I think because she pops up and she's not around more, you don't feel the connection as much as you should to make the romance feel more believable. And so that's an issue. The other thing is you have things happening in the movie that's kind of like it just makes no sense around, like, Loudon is training at one point, or he's practicing, and Carla somehow finds the school, then she's on campus, she finds the gym or whatever the boys are training. So she has to get on campus and zigzag, somehow figure out a way to get to the locker room area where the boys are. And then why would she go there with all those boys? It's just like, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. Some women who are bold may do that, but it's just you around a whole bunch of high school boys, and then, maybe one or two coaches that may or may not be, paying attention to what's going on. Just like, it didn't feel like, it's like, what are you doing, man? So whatever. Another thing was like, all right, eye rolling or whatever. And then there's the other thing that I think that is good that I didn't mention that I liked was Loudon's relationship with his English teacher, Mr. Tenoren. That was probably one of the more genuine relationships that I appreciated. You had a kid who engages with this teacher who he respects, and the teacher respects him. And that hit me as someone with mentor figures who have mentor figures like that in my life at that time in high school, where my teachers were people like that who may have also been coaches, or who just understood sort of what I might have been going through as a young person, as a student and as a student athlete. Those things like that were just like, it was cool to see that relationship. I liked that relationship a lot. Speaking of Mr. Tenoren, one of the things that's weird about this movie, there's a random, we see Carla meet him because Loudon introduces them, they're in this club or someplace where we see Madonna performing her songs and stuff. But that's about all we get. Then later, we see the Mr. Tenoren and Carla talking somewhere, having dinner or whatever it is. Like, it just feels weird that just seemed to happen out of nowhere, where we don't really get enough from that first meeting that would lead to Carla wanting to have dinner with Mr. Tenoren, which was weird to me. Didn't feel like there was anything that led up to that, which is whatever. I think maybe we're not supposed to see that because we're mostly in Loudon's perspective. So if he didn't see the stuff, we don't see whatever the stuff is. And so it just feels like this. But as a viewer, it felt like it came out of nowhere. And I'm not quite sure about just having it in the movie. This is one instance where I feel like the book would probably give a little bit more context around that. And this is the other thing I felt while watching I watched the movie, and I felt a lot of the times where things might have been missing, things could have been expanded upon a little bit more, just to give a little bit more context, so that things felt more narratively cohesive. I didn't feel like, I think for the most part, the A plot, like Loudon on his journey to lose weight, to wrestle, shoot, like his main competition, to win, that's clear. It was all the sub stuff and the little details beneath that made it questionable for me as a viewer to follow. Like, what are these other things doing here? And then there's obviously a nice sequence with Loudon and his grandfather, but his grandfather's not around as much to really make it mean something. Like, they go to visit the grandfather, but it doesn't really mean much. The movie tries to give you some context around the importance of Loudon's grandfather, but it's all like lip service. We don't really feel it. I didn't feel it. So things like that, where I feel like the book probably did a better job at expanding some of those things. And then the other thing is just Carla immediately being extra comfortable staying in the home of these two men, walking around the house the next morning in her underwear and stuff, cooking breakfast and stuff like that. Like that element felt like, okay, this is like wish fulfillment type situation where you find a stray woman who you take her into your home, and the next morning she's making you breakfast and she's trying to make it feel like this home. She's making it feel more like a home than it has felt in all this time, however long it's been since you've had a woman at the house. And that was weird. Now, never mind. It's probably in the book, and it just felt like it was. I think there was a way that could have been done to make it feel less weird. And I think I could see that maybe happening after maybe a month of her being there, maybe 2 months. But because she's literally there one night and then the next morning she's immediately super comfortable, that didn't jive with me. But again, that's me. Whatever. Most people probably are not thinking about that. Anyway, at the end of the day, you're probably going to be rolling your eyes a lot if you decide to watch this movie. I'm not going to say recommend it, but I think if you want to see Madonna get down a little bit on stage, it's worth a look. And if you want to see just another solid performance from Matthew Modine, it's worth a look. You want to see young Forest Whitaker, check it out. Other than that, I don't think I can in good conscience emphatically, passionately recommend the movie. But if you're like me, again, curiosity can mess you up, and it messed me up a little bit. There were things Loudon and his teacher, Loudon also one of his closest friends. Those were good relationships. Loudon and one of his co-workers, those are solid relationships. Those I feel like were better relationships than what we got with Carla. They did what they could with Carla. They tried to do, but ultimately the romance part was a little bit flat and didn't feel like it had as much meaning, which is a shame. I think in a romance sports movie where the romance also has to mean something a little bit. Oddly, I'll say this last thing before I close this. What it reminded me of was Teen Wolf. Teen Wolf is actually it's not billed as a sports movie, but it has a sports movie, especially that last act has a sports movie feel when they're playing that basketball game and you're wondering whether or not they're going to win that game. But the romance element of that feels like it's with him and Booth it's not full on romance, but that means more than what we got with Carla and Loudon in this movie. Something about that works, and it's weird because Teen Wolf is, if you look at any ratings, whatever reviews, it's not looked at as highly. It's not rated as highly as Vision Quest is, which is odd to me because I feel like Teen Wolf, if I'm comparing the two movies from the same year, those two movies, Teen Wolf is my pick as a movie that has fantastical elements with the werewolf angle, but the sports drama with the basketball stuff and the rival, the bully and all that stuff, and all that stuff is sort of there, and the romance stuff element. It has all these other things going for it, and it just feels like it works better than Vision Quest for me. But anyway, I'll leave you with that. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Come on back. Got more reviews coming up very soon. I'm getting out of here. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one. Time to take out the trash.